Today I'm going to be reviewing the Sony 24mm 2.8 to 12mm. Look at how wide this thing gets. Let's get into it. It goes from 12 to 24. It's very easy to do in just the turn of a wrist. Zoom ring is on the back, focus ring on the front. It is a infinite focus ring. On the side of the lens, we have the focus hold button and a switch for autofocus and manual focus. The front element on this lens is curved. This means you're not going to be able to put a conventional ND filter on there. You could go with something like a matte box, or there is the option to purchase these ND gels that you can slide on the back of the lens in between the sensor and the rear mount. As I zoom in and out, the lens will go in and out inside the shell. The lens hood is fixed on the lens, which is probably a good thing because, as you can see from this top-down view, the bulb does not go out past the lens hood. So if you were to stand the lens up or place it face down, the front element will physically not touch the surface. Here we have the lens cap, and I have no idea how this thing stays on because of the way that the hood is, but it does. Take it off really easy. Yeah, it's a lens cap. This lens is somewhat heavy in your hand, but it's very comfortable in the way that it will keep your shots steady. Even though it does not have optical steady shot like my Sony 16-35 f4 pictured here, so you can see the size difference between the two lenses. I haven't filmed or shot real estate professionally, so I'm not the best to chime in on this, but I'm assuming a lens like this would really help in that circumstance. So let me demonstrate to you the differences between 24, 16, and 12, just trying to film this bedroom behind me. As I come across the wall like this, I have to turn to get everything in the room. Coming across, I can already see that I get more up and down. I still have to turn to get that TV in the shot. And switching over to 12, and you basically have everything in shot. If I want to get isolation shots of things in the room, I think it's much better to tighten up to 24mm. That way I can establish a depth of field as opposed to widening everything up to 12 or 16. Let me show you what I mean. I can isolate this pillow in shot. I don't think this would look as good, maybe. I don't know, that's actually kind of cool. Pushing in on the pillow. If I was at 12, pushing in like this. Quite a bit of distortion on the sides of the frame though. This is f2.8 at 12, vlogging and walking at the same time. Now we're at 16mm. I am over cranking the shutter so I don't blow out everything. Now we're at 24mm on the A7 III. My shutter is super over cranked right now, but it's at f2.8. Trying to hold it as center as possible on Switch Rod Pro. How's it look? At 12mm inside a car, this is what the shot would look like. And for those of you that want to see it at 16, this is what it would look like at 16. Here we have a landscape sunset shot of the lake at 24, 16, and 12mm. One neat aspect of this lens that I was completely not expecting was how drastic the dolly zoom effect looks when you zoom 12 to 24 and 24 back to 12mm. When I was using the Sony 12-24 to film my talking head pieces for previous YouTube videos, this lens hands down has had the least amount of autofocus issues that I've come across with any lens that I've worked with. And since the image is so wide, I'm able to punch in on different parts of the screen to make that kind of jump cut editing a smooth experience on the viewer. When looking at the minimum focusing distance at 12 and 24 meters, I found that it was about just a little under one size of my hand. About that much. Right now, autofocus is on wide. Is it keeping me in focus? I'm not sure. I'm on 4K right now on the Sony A7 III. Hop over here. Does it keep me in focus? I think so. I don't know. I can't see my screen because it's the Sony A7 III. Can't wait to get a Sony A7S III. Let me back up, come back to the camera, see how that looks. Going? How's this autofocus? Is this autofocus legit? Is it cool? Did it keep me in focus the whole time? I don't know. I can't see my screen, so we'll see here in a second. Some other tidbits that I think are worth mentioning are that 12 to 24 millimeters is going to translate to 18 to 36 millimeters on APS-C sensor cameras. But I think it's worth stressing the fact that this is a constant aperture of f2.8 throughout the whole zoom range. And the first time I got a chance to review my footage, it surprised me just how much bokeh you can get when you're at 24 millimeters and you have that compression going on. I did mention the whole thing about not having any issues autofocusing, but I think this really boils down to me understanding my camera more than when I've done previous lens reviews. As I've progressed in using my a7 III, I'm much more knowledgeable in how to use autofocus zones and how to frame my shots in a way that gives the camera a fighting chance for autofocusing. And there's also the benefit of when you're shooting at such wide angles, everything appears in focus anyway, as opposed to if you're using something like a telephoto lens or even on that 24 millimeters when you have compression in the shot. It's a little bit more challenging to get that perfect focus when you have a tighter shot because the focal plane is so much more drastic than when you're at a wide angle. And speaking of wide angles, for the kind of content that I make, I was completely content with how wide 16 millimeters looks on a full frame camera like the a7 III. But once I got that 12 to 24 millimeters and set it up here, I was like, wow, 12 millimeters wide looks really good for talking head shots. And as I pointed out earlier in the video, it's really nice to punch into certain parts of your frame if you want to emphasize something or just keep the viewer interested in what you're talking about. One of the drawbacks that people may not talk about, but you're going to experience if you have something as wide as 12 millimeters is the fact that you're going to have to pick up so much more of your room because it's covering so much more of your room. Another common thing to cover in these kind of reviews is chromatic aberration. Here's a picture of some leaves in the sky at 12 millimeters and also at 24 millimeters. And zooming in, this is what the edge of the leaves look like. Overall, my experience using this lens was a complete joy. I think the only time I've had more fun or been more surprised when using a lens was the Sony 24mm 1.4. That lens is an amazing lens, and I think every Sony shooter should try it at some point in time, which leads me to this lens, the Sony 12 to 24mm, and the price tag. This thing at the time of this upload is $3,000. That price tag is super expensive. And in this video, I hope I've given you just a couple more examples and insight as to usage of this lens in the video realm. I'm not really a photographer, so if you're looking for more of a photography review of this lens, I would check out another video. But if you're somebody that's contemplating purchasing this lens, I'm gonna go out on the limb and say that you probably already know whether or not you need this lens. Professionals that need the f2.8 from 12mm to 24mm know exactly how they would utilize that and how often they would utilize a lens like this. And if you're somebody that is in the situation that would need those focal lengths with the aperture of f2.8, again, you probably already know whether or not you need this lens, and if you would recoup the cost of the lens with the usage of it. I do have links in the description to the lens. If you're somebody that is on the fence about purchasing this, I would highly recommend you rent this lens first before purchasing, just to see if you would use this lens enough to purchase it. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Sony 12mm to 24mm f2.8. Till next episode, my name's Javier Mercedes, and I hope you're out there living a life of abundance. Bye.